Greetings, board members and members of the community. I am Dr. Sarah Chaja-Clardy, along with my colleagues here who are going to provide this screencast in advance of the upcoming board workshop on November 7th, 2022 on our K-12 math interventions.
I'm Joe Deegan. I am the K-12 EMLSS coordinator.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa Hennessey. I serve as the 4K-12 math coordinator.
So to begin with, we're thinking back to the 21-22 school year, which is what our presentation is all about today, the work we did with math intervention during that time period. And as we recall back and think back to that school year, we center ourselves by beginning to think about the minimization of disruption that occurred for our students and our staff, as well as our family and community members following the COVID-19 global pandemic. All across the 21-22 school year, our student body as a whole was adjusting to the return to in-person schooling post-pandemic. Some of our students had completed the 2021 school year online. Some had done a mixture of online and in-person, and some had been fully back at that time. So 21-22 really was when we had all students back in the building for the most part. And we know that across the globe, all students had interrupted learning with regard to their instruction, and particularly in the area of mathematics. We also knew that as a system, we were beginning to explore intensive or supplemental instruction in math, and we knew that that was going to be a focus for the 21-22 school year. At that time, that spring prior, in the spring of 2021, we had recently adopted two math intervention systems, namely AVMR, which stands for Advantage Math Recovery for grades kindergarten through 7th grade, and IXL, which is kind of a colloquial term for IXL, in grades 8 through 12. Student results that we will be looking at in terms of our students' results policy show comparative data from the 1920 school year was not available because of the global pandemic. So any of our comparative results that are indicated for 21-22 are being compared against an 18-19 school year. Our student results monitoring report language, particular to Student Results Policy 2, SR2 in numeracy, reads that each student will be literate and numerate, able to integrate and apply the knowledge, skills, competencies, and dispositions acquired across all academic disciplines. Students will make reasonable progress toward 1 year's academic gain each year, with low-achieving students progressing more quickly. We are looking for accelerated growth or exponential growth for students who are low-achieving. The interpretation of this means that students who are numerate are able to apply the standards for mathematical practice, which are the dispositions of a mathematician, to solve problems in a variety of contexts. Students who are numerate are able to think and express themselves effectively in quantitative terms to grade level expectations, and that we as a system explore the results through demographic groups. And so reasonable progress would mean that students in the Sun Prairie Area School District for 2 full academic years, students who've been here that long, will have reasonable progress, meaning that students who meet or exceed the benchmark of proficiency in math for grades 3 through 8 will exceed the state percentage of students who meet or exceed the benchmark of proficiency on the state standardized test. And low achieving students shall mean that students who are performing more than 1 grade level below in math. Again, reasonable progress for low achieving students shall mean greater than 1 year's growth, because we know that that is gap closing work.
So a little bit about where we've been. During the 2020-2021 school year, the EMLSS Steering Committee identified a need for some math interventions. At the secondary level, we didn't have any adapted materials. At that time, we were using bridges at the primary level. And so the work of the EMLSS Steering Committee and the Math Steering Committee was to think about what are some things that we could do in terms of adapting materials and teacher training that would help us really just get better with student intervention specific to math. So in the 2021-22 school year, staff began working with an intervention program called IXL, with all staff attending a training in May 21 and August 21 on how to use IXL. And then we have developed common expectations for all staff to use an implementation. It's something that's used a lot, during wind time at the secondary level, and we'll continue to use it more as wind time becomes, grows across our system. Sort of where we're at now with training, or where we've been with training. At the end of the year on 21-22, we had around 42% of K-5 staff and 65% of 6-7 trained in at least one AVMR course. And the expectation is that at least half of educators, or our expectation at that time was at least half of educators would be trained. So I'm kind of split in the middle there. We about met our goal. We know, in a culture of continuous improvement, it's good for us as educators to always get better at what we're doing, especially when we're thinking about supporting our students who are below grade level, and who really, need that targeted support the most. That was one of the reasons that we, really were interested in adopting AVMR as we took a look at it, because it really just helps us become better as mathematicians and educators overall. There is some curricula that come with these things. So when we talk about, Bridges, AVMR, IXL, they are, programs that have lots of guiding resources that can help educators who might not be as familiar with effective math practices. But also, really, these programs really just help anyone, meeting them where they're at and helping them extend their learning with just, what good mathematical practice is. So it really, reinforces our foundation of continuous improvement in the area of math.
So what have we learned by implementing and adopting these resources during the 21 to 22 school year? With IXL, we met as teams of teachers, 8-12, and at first our expectations included, like specific amounts of time in using IXL within the classroom, as WIN was not broadly across the board 6-12 at the time. And we learned that a set time amount in using IXL was a good start, but wasn't necessarily responsive to student needs. So we thought about what we've learned is we need to use the program more strategically and cater to our individualized student needs. So during this year, we're thinking about using IXL in a way that could sometimes be in class, sometimes be during WIN, and thinking about that diagnostic within the program to create those individualized practice pathways for students. With AVMR K-7, we learned that after the training, we also need to in-house think about a second re-up to further explore how to utilize AVMR now that we've been trained, and focus on that training being about building our capacity in teaching mathematics. So really, AVMR is first and foremost us learning how students learn math. So what are the different levels of learning around addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and fractions? So there are materials that come with, but really it bleeds out into our core instruction, because as teachers, we learn more about learning mathematics. So I kind of dipped into where we're going with IXL. We are using it in many different ways now that we've done 1 year of implementation. So we're going to use it as a credit recovery strategy within PPA, connected to personalized math workshops and earning credits, but then credit recovery as well during the school year at 9-12. And we will also plan for the 23 summer school program. We're using it broadly with homework practices during WIN time at the 8-12 level and within class time as well. AVMR, we're in that second year of hoping that we can get everyone trained by the end of the year so that we can streamline implementation of the materials within the program for the coming year.
And thank you all for listening to our presentation. We look forward to engaging with the board and members of our community at the upcoming board workshop on November 7th. See you all then.